about that peace plan with Iraqi Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz will be reporting back to Moscow. Now let's go to a map. Our guests tonight to discuss this are first the ambassador to the United Nations from Yemen, which you see on the map in the south of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdallah, Mr. Abdallah al-Ashtal, the Yemen ambassador to the United States. My apologies, sir.
No problem.
The United Nations and our old friend, the Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States, Mr. al-Sabah, or Sheikh al-Sabah. Let me ask you this question. What do you think, first, that Tariq Aziz is going to say when he gets to Moscow? Do you think he will accept? And do you think that Saddam Hussein can survive withdrawal from Kuwait, unconditional?
I don't really know what Tariq Aziz is going to say. I mean, there's only one thing to be said here, are, as I said before, the acceptance of the Security Council resolutions, period, because no civilized nation is going to deal with Saddam Hussein's regime under any terms and under any concessions. Now, whether Saddam Hussein survives withdrawal from Kuwait or not, that's something left to the Iraqi people for themselves to decide. But I have always said that Saddam Hussein has dug himself a big hole when he invaded Kuwait. By remaining in Kuwait, he loses. By leaving Kuwait, he also loses in front of his people.
Mr. Allen,
quite frankly, the whole area will be a much safer place to live in without him for the future.
We'll stop right there because that's just what I want to ask Mr. al-Ashtal. This is called the nightmare scenario. We were discussing it last night. Every country on that map we just saw a few moments ago, except for yours, is scared to death that, well, then they aren't named, but all the Arab countries plus Israel, basically except for Yemen, are scared to death that Saddam Hussein might remain on his perch, might be militarily strong, he's still got most of his equipment, might become a hero to the Arab world, and so on and so forth, and be a bigger threat than ever, and do all this again a few years from now. Given his record, that's a pretty reasonable thing to be afraid of, isn't it? So why should, having gone to all this trouble, should the alliance now say, well, fine, you can stay, just pull out of Kuwait?
Well, first of all, the alliance has the authorization to use force from the Security Council of the United Nations. There is nothing in the resolutions of the Security Council that calls for the interference in the internal affairs of Iraq, or the intervention, for that matter, in Iraq. The Security Council resolutions call for the withdrawal of Iraq from Kuwait. I think it's up to the Iraqi people to decide what to do with their own system. But really, what is more important now is, first, as I said, the first step should come first, to try and achieve peace. And after that, the people in the area, the countries of the area, will have to have some kind of reconciliation. I do not think that there will be any peace and security in the area without some kind of reconciliation, which will involve everyone.
Mr. Ambassador, look, you say, why would anybody want Saddam Hussein to survive? The Soviets, clearly in the agreement as we read it, say it sort of guarantees his regime. Tehran is in favor of the deal. Syria appears to be in favor of the deal. Iraq may be in favor of the deal. Yemen is in favor of the deal. A collection of countries. Right. What I'm saying is you've got a whole block of countries, and the only ones in the Gulf area, or the Persian Gulf, the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, are the Sheikhdoms and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait.
Come on, Pat. What deal are you talking about?
The one that Moscow is proposing.
Do you know about it?
Yes.
I would love to see it if you have it, because I don't really know what
everyone has read about it.
What you read about it comes from a German paper somewhere, which has been a source of speculation. But no one really knows what are the deals. You're
making the same assumptions as everyone else is making about what's in that deal, and that's why you're against it, isn't that correct?
I'm not making assumptions. I said there is no deals here. There are Security Council resolutions he has to abide by. The speculations that have been floating around regarding the 4 points or 6 points, whatever they are, as far as I'm concerned, they do not exist because officially they do not.
Let me interrupt you. Mr. Ambassador, we have all read the same points, and the Soviets, Iran, a major country, Syria, a major country,
none of them,
maybe Iraq, Yemen, Jordan, have all said, this sounds terrific.
Which sounds terrific? Could you tell me, please, help me here, which sounds terrific?
The deal is unconditional withdrawal, guarantee for Iraq's borders. The Soviets will bring up the Palestinian question, and the Iraqi regime will be maintained. No guarantees for Saddam Hussein, except no war crime trial.
If that's so clear here to you, Pat, and to everyone, why is President Bush being asked by Gorbachev to keep the contents of the note he has received on this so-called deal, wait a minute, confidential. I believe that all the speculation is just mere speculation. There's more to it than the
Why are
promise we're
these other
talking about.
countries then saying it's a good deal?
Maybe there are some countries jumping the gun. I have not seen really the position taken by those countries. But as far as we're concerned and our allies, there is no deal here at all. There are a clear position here.
Excuse me, we have to take another break. When we come back, we'll get the ambassador from Yemen back in and ask him, will Saddam Hussein be a hero to the Arab world if he's still in power a month from now?
I'm trying to call overseas with this other long-distance company. I think I remember the number, but I guess not. I call the operator, but she says she can't give me an international number. I say AT&T always could. She says, you're not dealing with AT&T.
If you miss dealing with AT&T, it's easier than ever to come.
We'll settle this dispute between Sheikh al-Sabah and Pat before the break here about what exactly is in the Soviet peace plan. You were in the Security Council meeting this afternoon when it was discussed. Come on, what was in it?
Well, we were not told too much of the peace plan. Ambassador Gornostov only told the council, and he also reported to the press that Moscow is expecting Mr. Tariq Aziz to come back with a reply sometime tomorrow. But of course, he was handed in a plan with specifics, which the first point of which is withdrawal and an unconditional one. Besides that, of course, Moscow is waiting for the reply. What I have, yes, please.
Let me just ask you the question I mentioned before the break. Will Saddam Hussein be a hero in the Arab world if he survives this war?
Let me say that from the beginning, nobody supported the occupation of Kuwait. Nobody supported its annexation. But there are thousands, millions of Arabs who are demonstrating and hailing Iraq and Saddam Hussein. Not really because Iraq invaded Kuwait and annexed Kuwait, but because the whole status quo has been shaken. The status quo is not acceptable anymore because the Palestinian question is still there.
Go ahead very briefly. This is what I call the United Nations rhetoric. I mean, if you abstain on something, you're actually condoning it.
Okay.
And I don't like this language.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you, Ambassador Al-Ashtai in New York. Thank you, Ambassador Al-Sabah down here. And Ambassador Buchanan and I will be back in a moment.
Psychological and political fear. I think the Sheikdoms and the others are fearful that with the Arab masses, they're really in trouble as long as that guy's alive.
Well, I'm no Arabist. I'm not going to comment on that. I want to talk about George Bush. I'm fairly optimistic that he was not rejecting this peace plan today, that this was a quite sensible first stab at diplomatic negotiations.
I think the president is exactly right, and the reason is it makes it more acceptable to the other side if he says it's no good.
From the left, I'm Mike Kinsley. Good night for Crossfire.
From the right, Pat Buchanan. Join us tomorrow night for another edition of Crossfire.
Gary McGinnis, CNN weather, and as we think of our troops serving in the Middle East, we want to show you the satellite picture there. Still fairly cloudy across eastern Turkey, throughout Syria, and much of Iraq and a portion of Iran. But Iraq should be clearing out and by Wednesday afternoon, partly cloudy and 65 degrees for Baghdad. Mostly sunny skies for Israel. Tel Aviv should climb to about 66 degrees. In Riyadh, 70 degrees.
The U.S. president has lowered himself to doing so. Mr. Bush is laying himself open to accusations of mafia tactics, or accusations that he's letting his personal emotions get the better of him. In fact, President Bush's call for Saddam's overthrow seems to me to be a foolish invitation for a vice versa call from President Saddam. And where does President Bush think that will lead the world?
From Boulder Creek, California, Lori Book writes, yes, our scuds, sadly confused and unpatriotic demonstrators, have the right to express their opinions. However, I trust that their message of encouragement to Saddam Hussein is being rendered ineffective by military might and the demonstrated purpose of our patriots.
A viewer in Asheville, North Carolina writes, what bothers me is that we're losing the public relations war throughout the Middle East. Why don't remind the Arab-Muslim world that it was Mr. Hussein who attacked 2 nations in the last decade. It was the United States that came to the rescue of Arab-Muslim nations along with the allies who equally condemned naked aggression. When will these people realize that he is the wolf in their chicken coop?
From California, Ken Penwick writes, please stress that the war is a UN coalition, not U.S. war against a tyrannical regime and not the people of Iraq. Please stress the suffering of the Iraqi citizens and other Arabs. It may help diffuse resentment toward Arabs in our own country and elsewhere. They deserve our sympathy and respect. If you'd like to send your thoughts to us, you can write to CNN. The address
Strike bunkers inside Kuwait.
Marine wives at Camp Pendleton get a workout with fitness guru Richard Simons.
Laura Diaz has a special report on a house of hormones as a woman goes through menopause as her children experience adolescence.
And the actor who became famous as Luke on General Hospital tells why.
Border. It began when U.S. Apache attack helicopters hit a series of Iraqi bunkers well behind the Iraqi front lines, north of the Saudi border. The operation was still going on, but was in the mop-up stages when American briefing officers gave reporters the first word on what took place.
U.S. forces consisting of OH-64s and OH-58s attacked a bunker complex north of the border. Initial reports indicate 13 to 15 bunkers were destroyed. Approximately 450 to 500 EPWs were taken prisoners.
Those prisoners were being airlifted out by Chinook transport helicopters from behind Iraqi lines. Earlier, the Allied commander, General Schwarzkopf, said the Iraqis are on the verge of collapse. Today, another general wasn't quite so optimistic about that.
Very good job on it. But it's not going to be a snap. And I think the American people do understand, as a matter of fact, that if we get the word to go on the ground, that war's a bloody thing and we're going to take casualties, and I think that there will be a high degree of professionalism shown by the coalition forces, but it's going to be painful. I think it's going to be more painful to the other side.
In another tank and artillery engagement along the Kuwaiti border, an American soldier was killed and 7 more wounded when they exchanged fire with Iraqi troops. And in yet another fight, American planes spotted about 300 Iraqi vehicles dug in about 60 miles inside Kuwait. They claim now they destroyed 28 tanks and a number of other vehicles. But we are now beginning to see these excursions moving across the border. We are going in, pushing that front even farther north.
Right, phasing into that portion of the battle. Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, was again the target of intense Allied air raids overnight. That pounding continues from the air. And today, Iraqi officials took journalists on one of their tours of neighborhoods which were bombed out during the early days of the war in January. Most residents here said that they didn't understand what bombing them had to do with Kuwait. They believed that America simply wants to destroy Iraq. At local hospitals, there is not enough room or medicine to care for the injured. There was a shortage to begin with. And electricity, that's a problem. Doctors are not able to use the equipment that they do have. A team from UNICEF has just arrived in Baghdad to deliver tons of medicine and to look into the health and sanitation problems being caused by the war. One of the biggest concerns at this point is a possible outbreak of epidemic diseases such as typhoid and cholera. A British human rights group is calling on the House of Commons to investigate the atrocities being committed by Iraqi troops in Kuwait. The group parliamentary has interviewed Kuwaitis who recently escaped from their occupied homeland, and they claim murder, torture, mutilations, and rape are widespread throughout the country. Parliamentary also released a letter that was smuggled out of Kuwait from one citizen pleading with the world not to forget them.
Well, Christine, Saddam Hussein apparently has made up his mind on the Soviet Union's last-ditch peace proposal, but he's not saying what that response is just yet, anyway. Baghdad Radio says the Iraqi president met with his Revolutionary Council today and then ordered Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz to return to Moscow soon with a reply to the Soviet peace plan. It gave no hint whether Saddam agrees with the plan or not. President Bush entertained royalty today, meeting with Denmark's Queen, but he and Secretary of State Baker have made it clear the plan is not enough and Iraq must get out of Kuwait unconditionally.
Now, one way or another, the Iraqi Army of Occupation will leave Kuwait. And one way or another, the Army of Occupation of Iraq will leave Kuwait soon. And so, Kuwait will be liberated soon.
Meanwhile, Iraq's deputy foreign minister continued a surprise visit to Beijing, meeting with China's leaders, but still no word on what impact that trip might have on peace efforts in the Gulf. It's no exaggeration to say the world is waiting to hear the outcome of the Soviet peace plan, but no area is more directly concerned, of course, than the Middle East. Our foreign affairs reporter, Alex Payne, now in Amman, Jordan, updates us on the reaction in the Arab world. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Harold and Christine. The newspapers and TV and radio news bulletins here were reporting all aspects of the diplomatic maneuvering to end the war. And on the streets, Jordanians were anxiously awaiting news of Saddam's decision, as everyone else is in the Arab world. Now, while optimism was expressed yesterday and early today that Iraq would accept the Soviet peace initiative, as the day grew on, I sensed a feeling among people here that they believe Iraq's decision might not come fast enough to avert the Allied ground offensive. But as I said, people here and around the Arab world are still waiting and hoping for the news from Baghdad. And in the meantime, Jordan's fragile economy continues to suffer. There are empty restaurants, food stocks are dwindling, and unemployment is rising. Harold, Christine?
I wonder what the perception there is inside these Arab territories, and you've visited so many of them, about the issue of give and take. I've heard you refer to the fact that Arabs feel that the peace offer, so to speak, by Saddam are very fair, that they're very acquiescing. Other people feel differently. Do they appreciate the fact that perhaps this isn't complete acquiescence and not in line with the Geneva Accords, or I should say the UN resolutions?
Well, Christine, the people here feel that Saddam is offering the first step in the process of negotiation, and this is something they believe the American side and the West do not appreciate. They don't believe in black and white. They believe that there is steps to be taken, and Saddam has made some steps, and now it's up to the Allies to come back with something, and this whole process of negotiation and bargaining is fundamental to the Arab world, and they don't feel the United States or the Allies understand this.
But they do have a sense, don't they, Alex, the fact that their plight, the Palestinian plight, is now before the world, and whether we are negotiating about it directly or not, there has to be a sense of hope now that in the future they will at least be on the table. They will be the agenda.
Well, Harold, you're exactly right. As a matter of fact, in this morning's Jordan Times, there was an editorial saying that Iraq has achieved most of its goals, and one of those goals was to put the Palestinian issue on the front burner. It has attracted a lot of worldwide attention, and many people believe here, no matter what happens, the Palestinian issue will be addressed when this crisis is over. So in that regard, they feel victory has been achieved.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much indeed for the information again today. Look forward to talking with you again.
Prompt release of all prisoners of war. Despite the American insistence on Iraqi commitment to all the United Nations resolutions, other Allied diplomats agree with the Soviet idea that withdrawal from Kuwait is the first priority. Other issues, they say, such as the future of Kuwait, sanctions against Baghdad, and reparations from Iraq, can be settled later. Ralph Begato, CNN at the State Department.
When our coverage of the war in the Gulf continues, we will pay a visit to a refugee camp in Syria along the Iraqi border and meet some Iraqis who fled their homeland.
American Express now gives you an easy way to apply for membership. All you have to do is call.
Can I apply for the card over the phone?
Yes, you can. All I'll need is some information.